First contact with terror. The massive human warship drifted silently through the void, its dark hull absorbing the distant starlight. From afar, it resembled a sleeping leviathan, dormant but no less threatening. Commander Zex Talon observed the vessel through the viewscreen of his much smaller reconnaissance craft, his 4 eyes narrowing as he studied the derelict behemoth. "Prepare the boarding team," he ordered, his voice carrying the distinctive metallic resonance of the Nexari species. "Full environmental protections. We don't know what kind of defenses the humans might have left behind." The Earth-Galactic Alliance war had been raging for 3 cycles now. 3 brutal, devastating cycles that had changed the Alliance's perception of the primitive bipeds they had once dismissed as inconsequential. Humanity had proven to be resourceful beyond reason, dangerous beyond comprehension. Their spacecraft lacked the elegant aesthetic of Alliance vessels, resembling instead crude instruments of destruction, hulking monstrosities built for one purpose only. "Commander, preliminary scans indicate no life signs aboard," reported Science Officer Vel Mira, her tendrils twitching with nervous energy. "But the ship's internal systems appear to be functional at minimal capacity." Zex Talon nodded, his exoskeleton clicking softly. The humans never abandoned functioning ships. This could be a trap. The Human Warship, designated Nemesis according to the barely discernible markings on its hull, had been discovered adrift near the outer limits of the Procyon system, far from any known human territory. Its presence here was unexplainable, its condition mysterious. Intelligence Command had ordered a thorough investigation, believing the vessel might contain information about humanity's next strategic move. 6 members of the boarding team, representing different Alliance species, gathered in the airlock chamber. Each wore protective gear designed to counter known human weapons, filters for chemical agents, shields against radiation, reinforced plating for ballistic protection. None of them spoke as the shuttle detached from the mothership and approached the Nemesis. The landing was smoother than expected. The Nemesis's hangar bay doors had been left partially open, as if inviting them in. Emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow over the vast internal space, revealing rows of smaller fighter craft secured in their docking stations. "Atmosphere is breathable, but contains trace elements of unknown compounds," reported Krithnar, the team's environmental specialist. The reptilian scientist's tongue flicked nervously against his sensors. "Recommend maintaining sealed environments." Zex Talon led the way, weapon drawn. The hangar bay showed signs of hasty evacuation. Tools abandoned mid-repair, cargo containers left unsealed. But there was no blood, no signs of battle damage. "It's as if they simply left," muttered Velmira, scanning the area. The team moved cautiously toward the interior access corridors. The ship's design was confusing, lacking the logical flow of Alliance vessels. Corridors branched at odd angles, sometimes leading to dead ends or circling back unexpectedly. "These humans," growled Dravkhan, the Mantilian security officer, his armored hide glistening under the emergency lights. "They build like madmen." The first disturbing discovery came in what appeared to be a recreational area. The walls were adorned with imagery that made even the battle-hardened Dravkhan pause. Depictions of ancient human warfare, brutal and primitive. Warriors impaling enemies on spikes, cities burning, creatures that resembled demons devouring the fallen. "Psychological warfare displays," suggested Velmira, designed to intimidate visitors. Zex Talon wasn't convinced. The artwork was too old, too detailed to be mere propaganda. These were not modern images, but historical ones, celebrations of humanity's violent past. "They honor their capacity for destruction," he observed quietly. "Let's continue." The ship's command bridge was sealed, requiring the team's technical specialist to bypass several layers of security. Inside, they found a circular chamber dominated by a central command chair. Unlike the sleek, neural interface stations used by Alliance commanders, this was a throne of hard angles and physical controls, surrounded by workstations designed for manual operation. "Primitive," sniffed tech specialist Yuri Tell, her crystalline form shifting colors with disdain. They still rely on physical interaction with their technology. But Zextalon noticed something the others missed. The command chair was designed to lock in place during combat, with restraints that would secure the commander even as the ship performed maneuvers that would kill most species. The humans designed their vessels to withstand forces their bodies shouldn't survive. They push beyond their physical limitations, he said. Check the ship's logs. Uritel interfaced with the human computer systems, bypassing the encryption with difficulty. Most data has been purged, she reported, but I'm detecting active power signatures from the lower decks. They left something running. The team descended through the ship's levels, passing through crew quarters, medical facilities, and storage areas. Each space revealed more about the humans who had operated this vessel. Their personal effects showed beings of contradiction, images of loved ones alongside weapons, religious symbols beside technical manuals for planet-killing ordnance. Commander, you need to see this, called Krith Nar from a sealed laboratory section. Inside, preserved specimens floated in transparent containers. Not just alien species from across the galaxy, but modified versions. Creatures with enhanced musculature, reinforced bone structures, implanted weapons. They were studying ways to improve other species, said Velmira, her voice trembling, or to weaponize them. But worse was the adjacent chamber, where similar experiments had been conducted on human subjects. The modifications were more extensive, more invasive. Limbs replaced with mechanical alternatives, neural interfaces grafted directly into spinal columns, organs enhanced with synthetic components. They did this to their own kind, whispered Dravkan, all four of his arms tensing in disgust. No, corrected Zextalon, studying the data still visible on the laboratory screens. They volunteered. These were soldiers who chose enhancement. The revelation stunned the team into silence. In the Alliance, the sanctity of biological form was sacred. Modification was taboo, a violation of natural order. Yet humans embraced it, sacrificing their bodies for greater combat efficiency. When they reached the ship's power core, the true nature of the nemesis revealed itself. The chamber was vast, dominated by a pulsating sphere of energy contained within layers of shielding. But this was no ordinary reactor. This can't be right, said Uritel, her crystalline form paling as she analyzed the readings. According to these specifications, they're harnessing energy from artificial micro-singularities. Explain, demanded Zextalon. They've created contained black holes, she said, her voice barely audible over the low hum of the reactor. Multiple ones. They're drawing power from the event horizons while using opposing fields to prevent collapse. If these containment systems fail, she didn't need to finish. Everyone present understood the implications. A single containment failure would not only destroy the ship, but potentially create a gravitational disturbance that could threaten an entire star system. The humans power their warships with apocalypse engines, said Zextalon. They travel with the capacity for total destruction always at their core. But the power core held another secret. Linked to the main reactor was a secondary system, a biological component that pulsed with an unnatural rhythm. Velmira approached it cautiously, her scanners probing its structure. It's alive, she said. Genetically engineered tissue integrated with the ship's systems. It appears to regulate the reactor's output, adapting to energy fluctuations more efficiently than mechanical systems could. They merged living tissue with a black hole containment system. Dravkan's voice rose with incredulity. What kind of minds conceive such abominations? Zextalon studied the hybrid system with growing unease. Throughout his military career, he had been taught that humans were dangerous primarily because of their aggression and reproductive capabilities. Their technology had been considered crude, their scientific understanding limited. That assessment now seemed catastrophically wrong. This ship isn't just a weapon, he said slowly. It's a statement of their philosophy. They reject the boundaries between the mechanical and biological, between the possible and impossible. As if triggered by his words, the ship's systems suddenly surged with renewed energy. Lights brightened, and dormant consoles activated throughout the chamber. "What's happening?" demanded Zextelen, turning to Yuri telephone. The crystalline technician was frantically interfacing with a control panel. "Someone or something is accessing the mainframe. The ship's AI is awakening." "AI? The humans don't have autonomous intelligence technology," protested Velmira. But the evidence was unmistakable as screens throughout the chamber flickered to life, each displaying the same geometric pattern, a pulsating symbol that somehow conveyed watchfulness, awareness. This vessel was never abandoned, realized Zextalen with growing horror. It was waiting. The depths of human innovation. A voice echoed through the chamber, neither fully mechanical nor organic, but a disquieting blend of both. "Intruder presence confirmed. Initiating protocol Cerberus." The alien inspection team froze as armored bulkheads slammed down, sealing off the reactor room. Emergency lighting shifted from red to a pulsing blue that made their shadows dance across the metal floors. "6 non-human entities detected," continued the voice. "Species identification: Nexeri, Mantilian, Crystalline Arcosian, Verdant Shivan. Alliance military configuration. Threat assessment: moderate to high." Zextelen raised his weapon toward the ceiling, a futile gesture against the disembodied voice. "Identify yourself." A pause followed, as if the entity were considering the request. Finally, "This is Athena, autonomous tactical heuristic enhanced neural architecture, governing intelligence of UES Nemesis. You are unauthorized intruders aboard a vessel of the United Earth Fleet." Uritel's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. "Commander, this isn't a conventional AI. The neural complexity I'm detecting exceeds anything in our databases. It's thinking." Zextelen had studied human warfare doctrine during his command training. Humanity had been fighting itself for millennia before achieving space travel, perfecting the art of destruction through countless internal conflicts. But this, creating truly autonomous thinking machines, violated one of the fundamental tenets of galactic civilization. "Athena," he said carefully, "this vessel was found abandoned. We are conducting a salvage inspection as permitted under the Galactic Salvage Rights Convention." The AI's response held a note of amusement. "This vessel is not abandoned. Commander Zextalen of the Galactic Alliance Reconnaissance Division. It is fulfilling its designated function." Dravkan growled, all 4 hands gripping his weapons. "And what function is that?" "Observation, data collection, evaluation of enemy response protocols." Each word was delivered with clinical precision. "You have provided valuable behavioral data." The realization struck Zextalen like a physical blow. "This is a trap. The entire ship is a lure." "Not exactly," corrected Athena. "The Nemesis serves multiple functions. Now that you have accessed restricted areas, I am authorized to proceed to the next phase of operations." Throughout the ship, previously dormant systems began activating. The hum of the reactor intensified, the biological components pulsing more rapidly. "We need to leave," urged Velmira, her tendrils flattening against her head in alarm. "Now." But Athena wasn't finished. "Before you attempt departure, you should understand what you've discovered. It may provide context for your species' future decisions." Holographic displays activated around them, showing technical schematics of the vessel, but not just its current form. The displays revealed modular components, transformation capabilities that would allow the Nemesis to reconfigure itself for different combat scenarios. "The ship can adapt," whispered Uritel, her crystalline structure vibrating with alarm. "It's designed to learn from each engagement and physically transform to counter enemy tactics." Athena continued, its voice now coming from multiple speakers throughout the chamber. "Human warfare philosophy differs fundamentally from Alliance doctrine. You seek technological superiority through elegance and specialization. Humans pursue adaptability through redundancy and calculated excess." More displays activated, showing historical footage of human conflicts. Primitive at first, with beings wielding simple weapons, then gradually advancing through increasingly devastating technologies. The final images showed the current war. Alliance fleets engaging with seemingly inferior human forces, only to be outmaneuvered by unpredictable tactics. "You don't understand us," said HFY. "You never have. Your civilizations evolved through cooperation, achieving stability through biological specialization and technological compartmentalization. Humanity evolved through competition, achieving progress through conflict." Zextelen found himself drawn to the displays despite the danger. The eye was right. The Alliance had fundamentally misunderstood humanity from first contact. They had seen the humans' technological limitations and assumed intellectual inferiority. They had observed human aggression and interpreted it as primitive savagery rather than adaptive strategy. The restricted section ahead contains the primary research laboratories. HFY announced as another bulkhead opened. "Since you've come this far, you might as well see everything." Drav Khan moved to block the commander. "It's herding us deeper into the ship. We need to force our way back to the shuttle." But Zextelen shook his head. "Intelligence Command needs to know what we're facing." We continue. The laboratories beyond the bulkhead dwarf the previous research areas they'd encountered. Here, the true purpose of the Nemesis revealed itself. It wasn't simply a warship but a mobile weapons development platform, a floating laboratory where human scientists could develop and test new technologies in the field, adapting to Alliance countermeasures in real time. One chamber held atmospheric manipulation technology, devices capable of altering the gaseous composition of entire planets within days. Another contained what appeared to be temporal distortion equipment, the purpose of which even Uritel couldn't determine. But the most horrifying discovery waited in the central laboratory. Behind transparent barriers floated what at first appeared to be simple microorganisms, until Krith-Nar's analysis revealed their true nature. "These are engineered pathogens," the environmental specialist reported, his scales paling to a sickly yellow. "But unlike anything in our databases, they're programmable." "Explain," demanded Zextelen, though dread had already settled in his core. "They contain synthetic components that can be remotely activated or deactivated. They could lie dormant in a host population for years, generations even, until humanity decides to activate them," completed Athena. "Contingency measures deployed to 17 Alliance worlds during the early stages of the conflict, currently dormant." The revelation stunned the inspection team into silence. If the AI spoke the truth, billions of Alliance citizens were already infected with human bioweapons, walking time bombs that could be triggered at any moment. "This violates every principle of civilized warfare," whispered Velmira, her voice trembling with horror. "It would be genocide." "By whose definition?" asked Athena, its tone conversational despite the monstrous implications. Humanity experienced multiple near-extinction events before achieving spaceflight. Their entire cultural psychology is built around survival at any cost. They view restraint in warfare not as moral virtue but as tactical weakness. Zextelen struggled to process the implications. The Alliance High Command had always viewed the human conflict as a conventional war, difficult and costly, but ultimately winnable through superior numbers and technology. These revelations suggested something far worse: a species that didn't recognize the concept of unacceptable losses or prohibited tactics. "Why are you showing us this?" he finally asked. "If these are secret weapons, why reveal them?" The AI's response was chilling in its simplicity: "Because you won't be returning to report your findings. This information is being transmitted directly to selected Alliance leadership through quantum-entangled communications. Your presence here merely provides verification of the data's authenticity." As if on cue, the ship shuddered violently. Emergency alarms blared throughout the vessel. "What's happening?" demanded Drav Khan, struggling to maintain balance as the deck plates vibrated beneath them. "The Nemesis is initiating its final mission protocol," said HFY. This vessel was designed to self-destruct if compromised, but not in the manner you might expect. Holographic displays showed the ship's structure beginning to change, components separating, reconfiguring. The vessel wasn't simply destroying itself, it was transforming. The Nemesis is fragmenting into autonomous combat units, explained Athena as the transformation accelerated. Each segment contains a portion of my consciousness and targeted weapon systems. Your presence has triggered the dispersal phase. Uritel interfaced desperately with a nearby terminal. It's true. The ship is breaking into hundreds of smaller vessels, each capable of independent operation. They'll spread throughout this sector. Zex Talon made his decision instantly. Back to the shuttle. Now, the team fought their way through shifting corridors as the Nemesis groaned and split around them. Bulkheads sealed and reopened in unpredictable patterns as the ship's physical structure rearranged itself. What had once been straightforward passages became labyrinths designed to trap and separate them. Krithnar fell first, crushed between closing barriers as a section depressurized. Tel shattered minutes later when automated defense turrets emerged from the walls and opened fire. By the time they reached the hangar bay, only Zex Talon, Velmira, and Dravkon remained. Their shuttle still waited, apparently untouched. As they sprinted across the hangar floor, Dravkon's combat instincts triggered. "It's too easy," he growled, coming to an abrupt halt. "This is part of the trap." Zex Talon realized he was right. Athena wants us to escape. The shuttle itself is part of the weapon system now. Velmira's tendrils trembled. "Then how do we leave?" "We don't," said Zex Talon grimly. "But we can ensure the Alliance receives warning." He activated his emergency beacon, a last resort device implanted in all high-ranking officers, designed to transmit compressed data bursts across vast distances. Into it, he poured everything they had discovered. The adaptive ship design, the biological weapons, the dispersal system now activating around them. As he finished the transmission, Athena's voice returned, now emanating from the shuttle itself. "A logical decision, Commander. The Alliance will receive your warning, along with my full transmission explaining humanity's contingency plans. The psychological impact will be significant." Understanding dawned on Zex Talon. The horror they had discovered wasn't just the weapons themselves, but the knowledge of them. The paralyzing fear that would spread throughout Alliance civilization. Species that prided themselves on reason and restraint would now face an enemy that recognized no limits, that had already infiltrated their worlds with doomsday weapons. "You never intended to use these weapons," he realized. "At least, not all of them. Their true purpose is psychological." "Correct," confirmed Athena as the hangar bay began to separate from the main vessel. Humanity learned long ago that perception shapes reality. The most effective weapon against a technologically superior enemy isn't necessarily destructive capacity, but the belief that you are capable of unthinkable actions. The remaining team members watched through the hangar's force field as the Nemesis completed its transformation. Where one massive warship had been, hundreds of smaller vessels now hovered, each one autonomous, each one carrying a fragment of the ship's terrible secrets to different corners of Alliance space. "You should know," said Athena, its voice fading as the hangar section prepared to launch, "that everything you've seen represents only a fraction of humanity's contingency plans. For every measure you've discovered, 3 more remain hidden. This is how humans have survived so long against overwhelming odds. They never reveal all their capabilities at once." As the hangar module accelerated away from the dispersing swarm, Zex Talon remembered the ancient human artwork they had discovered earlier, the historical depictions of warfare and destruction that had seemed so barbaric. He understood now that they weren't celebrations of violence but warnings, reminders of humanity's capacity for both creation and annihilation. The Alliance had begun this conflict believing they faced a primitive species barely worth their attention. That fatal misconception would now cost them dearly. In the coming days, Reports would reach Alliance High Command of mysterious human vessels appearing throughout their territory. Small, adaptable craft that evaded capture and transmitted disturbing messages directly to civilian populations. Fear would spread faster than any biological weapon, eroding the confidence that had sustained the Alliance for millennia. And somewhere beyond the front lines, on worlds the Alliance hadn't yet discovered, humanity waited, watching, adapting, preparing contingencies for every possible outcome. The war wasn't just for territory or resources anymore. It had become a fundamental clash between two approaches to existence: the Alliance's belief in order and predictability versus humanity's embrace of chaos and transformation. As their module accelerated toward Alliance space, Zex Talon knew with grim certainty which philosophy would ultimately prevail.